Welcome to the Next Play podcast. We are overcoming mistakes in life and in athletics. We're doing a special series on the military and athletics, and I have a special guest. I've got Rocky Rutherford. Sorry if I've mispronounced that, but Rocky is a current Army Ranger, and I'm real excited to talk to him. He also played a little college baseball as well. So Rocky and I, Logan Williams, who was one of our previous guests, and Rocky are buddies and former. What's your connection with Logan? You guys work together, right?
Yeah, when he showed up, I was probably in between jobs, but I ended up being a squad leader, and he was one of the guys that worked for me during one of my time in Second Ranger Battalion. So yeah, we got to be real close.
So if you're not watching this live on YouTube or anything, Rocky is he's not a small looking guy. He's got some good looking guns and got good looking tattoos right there. I don't know if Logan shared with you that I'm the toughest civilian he's ever met. So just keep that, actually, when we talk, did he mention that when he was, talking about coming on here? Just like, this is not a normal dude. This dude's tough. So.
Yeah, he brought that up. As a matter of fact, whenever I was at your house, he said, I was pretty lucky that you weren't there at that time. So,
Rocky, I was off doing a clinic somewhere. Rocky came by the house. So anyway, great to have you. So Rocky, you were. Let's start your story. Maybe in high school, I guess. So where did you grow up?
So I'm from a small town in Southwest Arizona, a little town called Yuma, and grew up there. All the way until I was into high school and eventually left after high school. But I went to a small little 2A high school out there where I played football and baseball.
Gotcha. What position in football were you?
So I was a wide receiver and a D-back, and then baseball started off as a shortstop, as every young man does. Yeah. And I had a coach who actually was like, "Hey, you got good instincts for center field," and so I got pushed back to the outfield, which at that time I hated. I was really upset about it. But after 4 years and 2 Gold Gloves later from the state, I was pretty happy that he made that choice.
I bet. So where did you go to college? Then you played a little bit. You said.
Yeah, so I walked on to Mesa Community College up in Phoenix, not realizing that they were top 5 ranked.
I'm about to say I've heard of I've heard of how good they are. So
yeah, and so I hung on for about as much as I could. Wasn't really taking care of my body at that time. Didn't have any real guidance on what to do. College was new to me. High school, I was as we all are, we're babied. And so tried to stay with it as far as I could and played a little summer ball with them, but ended up hurting my shoulder pretty good, and then just falling into the school trying to be, get the academics done.
Remind me to go back to that, like we all are baby. We need to. I want to go back to that after we hear your story, because that'd be interesting to hear. So, all right. So, when did you decide the Army was the way to go then?
Well, to be completely honest, I had no intention. Shockingly enough, I was born on a day that, when I was growing up, I was about 8 years old. 2 planes slapped into the World Trade Center.
So you were born on 9/11?
That's correct.
I am born on 9/11 as well.
No kidding.
Yeah, how about that? 9/11 was my 30th birthday.
That's my 8th birthday, so sorry to age you.
Yeah, but I mean, whenever from now on, people, hey, what's your birthday? And you tell them, they look at you like you had something to do with the terrorist attacks or something. It's that's a small world that we're both.
Yeah, I feel like I've always gotten the looks of oh, sorry, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
people tell me that
there.
Too. Yeah,
I didn't do it.
Yeah, so, exactly. Hey, I'm so sorry you were born on that day. Yeah. Wow, fascinating. All right, so back to you're born on 9/11. You're 8 years old.
Yeah, I was. I had never really had. I think growing up, every young man goes through it. Of do I join the military? They see this. It's cool. It's it's very publicized. I want to be the cool guy. The the military guy. I want to wear the uniform. I think kids just find a natural attraction to that, as they should. And they're almost like looking for something, you know. And then I got into high school and I was in a bunch of different things, and military wasn't even on the table. And college baseball didn't work out. College really wasn't working out, and I couldn't. Like I said earlier, I mean, we're so babied. We don't have the conversation of like how this is going to be once you're on your own. And I feel like there's no gradual to it. It's always just abrupt. You're all of a sudden on mom and dad's dime, and then you're on your own. And that causes a lot of problems, you know. And so I remember talking about it once or twice, and I was working odd jobs. I think I worked at Ace Hardware for a little bit, and I actually worked at the Budweiser plant in Phoenix for a while. Great job. And one day I'm talking to my brother, and my brother is 10 years older than me. And we're talking, and he's telling me about one of his buddies who was a Ranger, and he's, you know, the toughest guy he knows and all this. And I told my brother, I was like, I can do that. It's no problem. And he kind of laughed, and he was like, yeah, you could, and you could never do that. So I like to tell people, like, I joined the military kind of on just to show my brother up, for lack of better words. Just to say I could do it.
Is this an older or younger brother?
Older brother. I'm the younger brother. And
that makes sense. Younger brothers. So
and so I just, you know, I'd always looked up to him.
So your whole goal was to go to Ranger school before. I mean, that's why you were going to the Army, right? You're going to Ranger school. Wow. Yeah.
So sorry, I'm gonna turn you up real quick. So when I did my homework as I wanted to do this, I didn't pull the trigger very quick. I decided this is what I was going to do. I was like, you know what? I want to go out there and make something of myself. I watched every documentary on YouTube, watched every single thing they had on Netflix and Amazon. And I sat there and was like, is this something I really want to do? And I knew at that time in my life, I was going nowhere. I was,
so how much did that help you watching all that stuff, would you say?
I would say for what it really was, now being, you know, almost 10 years in the Ranger Regiment, for what it really is for the job, it helps none. You're not going to know exactly what we do or what you'll be doing if you want to go this route. But what it does do is it provides motivation to kids who are looking for motivation. And I think that's very important, because for me, every day I went home and you know, I'd work, you know, my 10-hour day, and I'd say, you know, hey, I got to go get a workout in, because that's what these guys are doing, you know, and that's what they'd expected. And you know, and looking back on it now, you're like, oh, well, you didn't know a quarter of it. Well, yeah, but all you need is about this much of motivation, and you can accomplish anything. It's just.
So do you think, like you mentioned, you didn't have much direction, you didn't have much going on in life. I just got through with a Marine, and he was kind of saying the same thing. He was like, but in some ways that might be good, right? Like if you had something waiting for you back home that was really good, I don't know that helps you mentally, right? To complete this training and to go through this hell that you guys went through. Any thoughts on that? Like, I mean, like if you knew you had, hey, I go back home, I've got this job making six figures, whatever. I mean, that probably makes it a little tougher to fight through everything, I would think.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, I think, especially at the age of going from high school to college, a young man looks at himself and goes, I want to do something hard. You know, I don't want to, and especially if college isn't working out, because a lot of the people go get their college degree and their families are ecstatic for them. And that was the hard part that they did, which I'll give it to them. That was hard. Going to school is hard. I didn't like it, you know, and I'm still going to school right now. So it's, you know, that's the hard part. Other people will go, hey, I want something physically hard. I want people to look at me and go, hey, that guy's done something hard, you know? And I think that's a lot of what young men are looking for. And so all they have is to go in. They have nothing behind them. They drop everything at the door. Here you go. This is all I got, and I'll give you everything I got every day. And those are the guys that you see in you know, the Marine Corps and in the Army and in special operations, 100%.
Those are the guys that make it, right? What about
Absolutely.
the guys that are just going in that have, yeah, wow. And you look at Logan, like before, you didn't know Logan before he went in. I used to call him Hogan because I thought he was so soft. I would say you're just, you're a little boy, you're soft. He wasn't, but I would just but now like it's incredible, the transformation from where he was as an 18-year-old to where he is now. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And I've worked with that age forever, and you don't see that kind of transformation. And so I guess, there's got to be an incredible confidence knowing that you've done something that so few people can get through, I guess. So.
But I also think what you said is important. You need people in your life, because I see mainly two types of people inside the unit that I'm in. And that's one has had really bad life circumstances and they've had to fight through it themselves. The other side, they might have had good circumstances in life, but they've had people that always kept them in check. And I think that's extremely important. You need people who are going to like kind of humble you a little bit. My brother did that for me. My brother is, like I said, 10 years older. He has, we have 4 cousins, all minimum 10 years older than me. My brother's the youngest one. And I grew up with all of them. So it was, an 8-year-old and 4 18-year-olds. And they kept me humble because they made sure I never felt, special or anything like that. But it was important because as you get older, you look at something like that and you go, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to do whatever it takes to prove them wrong. And you'd be surprised what you can accomplish out of spite almost,
Well, it's grit, it's resilience, right? I mean, that's what it's like. It's like Michael Jordan trying to come up with these grudges against people that he invented in his head. Tom Brady in football, the chip on his shoulder where he just never let go of it. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers has got that a little bit. I mean, I think 100%. It's that's great stuff. So Ranger School, you make it through it. You get through it. And then what happens after you graduate, or whatever y'all call it, I guess. So
so I get in, I got an option 40 contract, which means I'm going to do basic training, I'm going to do airborne school, and then I'm going straight to Ranger assessment selection program. So I go through basic training, no problem. To be honest, our basic training now is not hard by any means. It's just instilling that discipline, which was good. Go to airborne school, you're around there for 3 weeks doing all kind of getting ready to jump out of an airplane 5 times. And this is my first time meeting somebody in the regiment. And we show up after our graduation day. They had a truck out back and they said, you have 30 seconds to get your bags on that truck. And, there was 100 of us, probably 150 of us. And so everybody's trying to throw bags, and all of a sudden that truck in 30 seconds takes off. The rest of us, we grab our bags and we ran after that truck. I mean, it was about, for working over there now, it's probably about a mile, in boots in the middle of the summer, running down there, trying to catch the truck, heading to the Ranger compound. Got there, went through the whole selection process, and completed that. So it's an 8-week process. And then after that, did some time at 2nd Ranger Battalion, and then eventually went to Ranger School from there, got my Ranger tab, and then started the leadership positions down there.
So is that kind of what Logan did too? Is that the same progression most people have? You start out.
Yep. Yeah. I know that's for sure what Logan did. And then because he got assigned to our same platoon. And and so
how big's a platoon?
A platoon, so it's 4 squads. Your squad usually ranges about 10 men, except for weapon squad a little bit more. So usually about 45 to 60 if you're really overmanned. And that's with like enablers and stuff like that.
And now you guys have these small units too, correct?
We do. We have, the regiment definitely brings its own flavor of small and large team, but the minimum that you'll see in a line company from like the Ranger regiment standpoint is a platoon fighting, which would be 60 plus.
Gotcha. So, all right. So you graduate, then where do you get stationed?
So I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, or Joint Base Lewis McChord,
which is where Logan is. Yep.
Yep, in the Pacific Northwest, and from there, I was there for 8 years straight. And I held, I mean, in my platoon alone, I think I held every single position that there was.
What are some of the examples of different positions? Like,
so, you could start out as like a machine gunner.
yeah,
Once I got my tab, I was like a M249, which is another type of squad integrated machine gun. Squad or a saw gunner is what we call it. I was a team leader, I was a squad leader, and I was a weapon squad leader. So the only role I basically didn't fill was my platoon sergeant or platoon leader position.
wow. And now, so then you moved to Fort Benning where you are now, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So how many years now are you in? Is this year 10?
This will be year 9 coming up. Yeah. So I'm in year 9 right now, getting ready for year 10.
How many tours have you taken? Have you been to the Middle East yet, or is that something?
Yep. I've been both to Afghanistan, Iraq. I have a few trips out there. So.
Wow, incredible. So all right, so now you're leading men that are tough. What's that? I mean, like I told Logan the other day, I was like, Logan, you're used to working with Rangers and the toughest of the tough. How are you going to go to help how are you going to work with the soft high school kid or the parent thinks their kid has never made a mistake? And that seems like that would be tough for the adjustment. I mean, how can you deal with the softness of the world, I guess? Like,
I'll tell you this. I don't know how Logan's going to do it. To me, that scares me more. That scares me more than anything, because I get the quality of guy that I know I have that I'm talking to is one thing. There's for
the listeners, if you don't, Logan is he's been on the podcast before. If you didn't listen, he's a former athlete that was a Ranger that's now working on his degree in education so he can teach and coach. So there you go. Yeah. So
now I don't know. I mean, I think that part scares me. Even getting into college now, they recommend pretty highly that we do college courses while we're in. So I've been doing that, and even dealing with other people in the military that are just not in my unit has been difficult, because there's a softness around it, but I don't think that takes away from people around them being the hard men that we need around. So how I'm trying to get this in my mind to kind of make sense is, it doesn't matter the softest kid on the playground. He's always going to look up to whoever's hardest on him. I think we have this inclination to do that. And to anybody that's hard on us, we typically, most boys too, they're really bad about this. If people pick on you, like, you have an older cousin that picks on you, an older uncle that picks on you, you love that man more than anything because he humbles you, and you're always trying to get that level of approval. I'm always trying to work harder to impress him. And I think that's where it becomes like grit. To this day, I have people around me in my organization that I'm constantly trying to work my butt off for, to try to impress them, to be like, no, I'm better than this person because, I'll work harder. I'll do harder stuff. I'll be the toughest guy out there,
Yeah. Wow. And so you're training you're leading the toughest of the tough, but y'all are doing incredible. It's like when I talk to a football team, I'll be like, hey guys, by definition, y'all are tougher than the average guy walking up and down the hallway, but you're not playing against, the soft guy. You're playing against other guys going through the same stuff as you are. So I think it's similar, and I have a general that's our last military, and he said the enemy gets a vote too, and I think it's interesting when you're training guys for tough stuff. But I don't see how you guys can go back into society, which is so soft, and work with administrators in a school setting or work corporately with I don't see how you guys can function, because it drives me nuts, and I teach mental toughness, and I just don't see, because you guys are so far beyond.
Well, I'll say two things on that, and the first comes to the point that you said is, how do you teach it? I don't think you teach by, I can sit here and talk to a guy and say, hey, you need to do hard stuff. You need to do hard stuff. But how I teach better than anything is I'll lead by example. I'll show you how to do hard stuff, and I'll do it better than anybody else doing hard stuff. And then you look at a guy, and that's really the way we even have to teach our younger generation of Rangers coming through is, hey, I'm going to lead you by example. So I don't know if Logan talked to you about this, but right now I'm one of the cadre that is assessing and selecting for the Ranger selection. So as of right now, that's what we're doing. You know, every time these guys are coming through, we do everything with them to show you, hey, we're leading by example. There's nothing I'll ever ask of you that I will not do myself, and I will accomplish it to a higher standard than you will. Now, if you can beat me one day, then there you go, you know. And I think that's very important because the enemy
so
does.
You're judging these guys to see if they've got what it takes, basically, right?
Correct.
Wow. What do you think the number one factor? Is it grit? Is it resilience? Grit. I mean, how do you judge that from day one? I mean, how do you see it?
You can see it. So I would say
I guess let me ask it this way: how long does it take you to see it?
35 minutes.
Wow. Are you ever are you, and you're right, I'm assuming 99% of the time?
I would say something about that. I would say any cadre member, to include myself, can probably tell within the first half hour if you're going to be somebody who's made for this organization or not, because we're going to put you through something hard, and then we're going to walk up to you and you know, prime example. Just recently, a guy was doing something very, very challenging during the course. He's going through it. I walk up to him, and you can tell he is just having probably one of the worst challenging days of his life.
Yeah.
And I asked him just point blank, said, "How you doing?" And he looked up at me, gave me a little, little grin, and said, "I've never had a better day." And those guys right there, they get it, they understand it. And I understand it, you know, they'll do whatever it takes to be there. And most of those guys, I'll be like, yeah, take their number down, and I'll see them at graduation. And I'd be right 99% of the time.
It's incredible. What role does body language play in you reading these guys?
Surprisingly, not as much as you'd think. There's some guys that have come in and surprised me with their body language because they come in with no confidence, and that's okay, because it's almost like having a guy who's played baseball for a bad team for a long time finally come onto a good team. He has some bad things some bad habits he has to break, but once you break those down, he's going to be okay. So you break that down, you break his, you know, structure down, you tell him, you know, you have no reason to be confident. You know, you can't do much, and you break him down kind of mentally and physically. And then as you build him up, he'll come back 10 times as strong because he's realized he's earned it on his own. There's no one giving him anything to him.
So it's the guy that you can mold is better than the guy that thinks he knows everything, comes in with different, the mindset of I guess you got to be pretty teachable in that situation, obviously, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And I would say the guy who comes in thinking he knows everything is the guy that I know will not pass that course.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're obviously in shape. Now, how many more years can you outwork these young fellas? You know, I mean, you're all right. So you're, let's say I'm 20. So you're, what is that? 30? You were born,
almost 30.
You were 8 years old. So you're how old now? I'm sorry.
Almost 30, 29.
Yeah. It's trying to do the math there. So, I mean, like LeBron's going at 38 right now. I mean, is that how many more years can you go to 4? Are you going to be Tom Brady at 44 doing this, or like
I'll tell you, hopefully I stay healthy. That's the biggest thing, is now prepping in this new phase of my life of later 20s. I have put a lot more into recovery as much as, my workouts and stuff like that. But I'll tell you this, my boss has almost 10 years on me. And he still burns me down every once in a while in a workout. And so until I can beat him out, and I'm going to keep pushing on.
So, all right. So what's the similarities between, obviously what you're doing has a ton of physical and mental exertion. So what are you doing physically for your body to recover? You know, hydration's got to be huge. Nutrition's got to be a big piece of it. Any other, I've said I could have played a lot longer and better if we'd had all these great hydrotherapy things and all that. What kind of access do you guys have to those type of modalities and things I guess professional athletes have?
I'll be completely honest. If you look into, and I think, who was it? Andrew Huberman was talking about this on his podcast. If you look at what teams are looking at, so you got your average, professional team. What are they looking at? They're looking at what special operations military are doing for their recovery, for stuff like that. And it really hasn't been taken seriously, at least in the Ranger aspect, until the last probably 5 years. But it's our access to all this stuff is impressive. Like it's awesome. So now we got nutritionists. I go see a mental health coach. I recover my body, and whether it be the Normatex or a cold plunge or the sauna or whatever. And we have all this access to physical therapists and, our actual like PAs and stuff like that. If we're actually having issues. But I would say the biggest thing, make sure you're eating right. Make sure your mind is right. Work out as hard as you possibly can and recover your body. And that's whether you do that and, for this job or for any job or just for your 9 to 5, or whether you use that as a release, you owe your body that kind of stuff, and it'll help you.
What about the mental aspect? What is the mental coach helping you with that maybe athletes or coaches can use, or maybe I can use in my, clinics that I,
there's a lot of stuff.
I'll tell you, first of all, you're an Army Ranger, one of the baddest of the baddest guys, but you're talking to a mental coach. That says something right there too, that, hey, there's nothing wrong with, it's not soft to talk to somebody like that. So anyway,
I'm the biggest advocate for guys talking to people. We got a lot of stuff pent up, and it doesn't matter if you're doing this job, doing your job, if you're working at the 7-Eleven down the road. If you feel like you need to talk to somebody, go talk to somebody, because we have way too many. The 22 a day thing is huge in this community, and we've had people commit suicide. And you're like, hey, that guy was fine. Like, I just talked to him. Like, he was fine,
Because obviously you can be mentally tough and not mentally healthy, correct? Like you
correct.
You can do the toughest of tough, but maybe your brain's not. That's something I've been, anyway, keep going.
And not only that, with the guys that are mentally tough, when they do break, because it's inevitable. Like, I don't care how tough you are. I consider myself a tough guy. I know you consider yourself a tough guy. Eventually, we'll break, and the mental aspect of it is the hardest, because no one can see the scars. No one can see the black eyes. No one can see, the bruising and all that stuff that does. We hold it in, we internalize it, we work through it. But I talked to somebody for a while, and, me and my wife have had to go have, counseling before and therapy and stuff. I take full advantage of all that, because if it's there and it can help me 1%, then I can get 1% better for tomorrow. And eventually that'll add up,
And a lot of it, I guess, is just listening, the person listening, or any advice that they've given that you could pass on to athletes, or, obviously talking to somebody, that's your first advice there, but any other things that maybe you've, we could pass on to athletes too.
Yeah. Make yourself happy, look at your life and decide what makes you happy. I found a newfound love whenever I came down here, because when I came to Benning and started kind of this new aspect of my life where, now I'm married, I'm with kids, I have kids, and, I'm not deploying all the time. It's this new part of my life, because for the first few years of me and my wife's relationship when we were dating, it was year after year I was gone, and it was like clockwork, and which was great. I'm not mad at that. I enjoyed my time. I love the fact of, that I went over there and fought.
Because that's what you were trained for. Just like Logan was talking one time, he's like, hey, I was trained for this. I want to go over there and utilize this training. Otherwise, it'd be like practicing all the time and never getting to compete in a game.
Exactly. And that was the analogy I used to love to use. Imagine practicing all the time, and every time that game comes up on Saturday, they go, hey, you're rained out. Hey, you're rained out. And you never get that chance to go, but do stuff that makes you happy, and me I was pretty bad about surrounding myself, or living the you work hard, you party hard life, and that's not the case. I look back now in my early 20s, and I wish I would have done things dramatically different. I wish I would have traveled. I would have seen stuff. I would have done stuff that made me happy. And I'll be the first one to admit it. I know where I, messed up, and I know where I could have been better. But I also think I'm 29. At least I figured this out now, and not when I'm 49. So I'm taking full advantage now. I'm loving being a dad.
Now, how old is your
loving,
child? I know my wife was saying it's a girl, right? She was running around our house, or is it a little
boy.
Little boy,
I got a
yeah.
girl on the way. Yeah, girl on the
Okay, I
way.
knew there, yeah. So
He's
so
one,
how,
or he's 17 months now. My
so
wife
how are
is.
you? Okay, so parenting a young child, having a dad as an Army Ranger. I mean,
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. And just because what I'm used to, especially in the last 6, 7 years, I'm used to giving an order. That
Yeah.
order gets filled as soon as humanly possible, and then I
Yeah.
go about my day.
Yeah.
It has brought me a new level of patience,
Yeah.
but it has been the most fulfilling thing that I think I've ever done in my life.
Wow. That's awesome. So what kind of dad are you going to be for your kids athletically, do you think? I mean, how is it?
So my dad was my coach all the time, and I loved it because my dad was always there. I
Yeah.
hated it because I was very bad at taking criticism from him,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of kids kind of run into that problem. To be honest, I haven't figured that out yet. I'll probably figure out how he takes criticism,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you this. You probably know this from Logan. We don't hold back much of what we say.
Yeah.
If we're going to tell you something, I'm going to be blunt truth to you. But that's fine. And if I have to do it from the sidelines and hire a coach or hire somebody to make sure that he excels, and I'm totally fine with that. I want him to love sports. I want him to love athletics, love competing. That's what I loved. I love to compete. I love whenever it got, bottom of the 7th inning and you're tied up going into, 2 outs, and you're like, hey, I want to bat. Like, put me in the game, coach. And I just hope he's like that.
That's awesome. So what do you wish you'd known as a high school athlete or college athlete that you know now?
God, the list.
I know there's 1,000 things, but if you had to just say one thing, just one thing, one piece of advice that you wish that you could pass along to the young people listening to this.
I'll say this for high school going into college, and for anything you guys want to do in your career, buy in 1,000% to whatever you're doing. If you think that's what you want to do. So I'll give you an example. When I was doing the college thing, I remember the team would do this workout, and then they'd be like, hey, let's go eat together. And then we're gonna go get a lift in. And I was in I felt not that I didn't belong. I did. I was and I was like, no, I'm too cool for that. Like, I'm not going to go hang out with them. Like, I'm going to go to my house and play video games, or I'm going to go out and grab a beer with a friend or something like that. Yeah. I wish I would have just bought in. I wish I would have made my college experience an experience. I wish I would have, I still wish I do this stuff. And it takes me now to look at things and go, hey, you got to buy in, because the first time I ever did that was with my platoon at 2nd Ranger Battalion. And I realized how fulfilling that could be. And I realized how important that is. And if you want to go for something, you go for something, you buy in, you gotta take it. As much as you might think like you're the cool guy and all that stuff, buy in, because if you can buy into it, it'll mean more to you. And if it means everything to you, then there's nothing that's going to stop you from achieving it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. What about one, and we're about wrapping up here, but one leadership quality of, I guess the greatest leaders you've been around in the military or even in coaches? What's the one quality maybe they share? And then the one quality of the worst leaders you've been around.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. I've learned 100% more from the worst leaders I've been around than the good leaders I've been around. And I think that's important for everybody to understand. You're always going to have bad leaders. Ranger Regiment has bad leaders. It's okay. You learn way more from them, and they'll weed themselves out eventually. Because some people start out as really good leaders and end up being bad leaders because they had bad leaders,
So how do you do that? I mean, like, I'm terrible at that. Like, I am terrible at working for people that don't realize that they're not any good at what they're doing. Like, I'm horrendous at it. So what advice do you give to people? What advice do you give to that athlete who's playing for a coach that maybe doesn't know what they're doing, or for a coach that's working for administrators that have no clue if a ball's pumped or stuffed? I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just taking what you're learning. So I looked at all my bad leaders and I said, what do I not like the most? Not personally, like what is truly affecting, me from doing my job, from executing to my highest ability, all this. And I wrote it down. And then whenever I became a leader, I realized I'm never going to do that stuff, and I made sure I didn't. And I still have notebooks full of notes and lists and all this stuff. And then your good leaders, obviously you just try to emulate. You don't have to write anything down. Just try to emulate. Do things that, I have some great mentors that are up doing bigger and better things than, I could even imagine in the military now. And as a matter of fact, my high school varsity baseball coach, I talk to him probably once every few months. And I'll just contact him. I'll see how he's doing, just because he was such an important part of my life. What good leaders did, I think, that showed me, or that made the biggest impact on me, and it's something that the Ranger Regiment did to me as a whole. It showed me that you're not important. And it sounds rough. It sounds very harsh, but it's very true. Right now, if I was to, get hit by lightning and not be here tomorrow, there is 100 guys willing to take my spot, willing and able to take my spot. And I think that's so important to realize, because it brings everybody that little piece of humble pie that you need every once in a while. And you go, well, I'm going to work way harder, and I'm going to remember, if something was to happen to me, they'll remember that I'm gone, and they'll remember, how good they had it when I was there, whatever it is that's driving. But I think we, especially in my job, I used to tell my squad, Logan will probably vouch for me on this one. I used to tell people, you're not important. No one here is important. We are all training for, the best case scenario of all of us coming home. But if one of us doesn't, that just means the next guy in line's in charge. And that's all that means, and you're ready for it, because I've gotten you ready, and I think that's important. I think people need to stop feeling like they are, the most, important people. Everybody's got to say. I mean, you can't even get on social media now. Everyone wants to pitch their, whether it be political beliefs or, what's their opinion on this. And it's like, hey, at the end of the day, no one cares. Go out, work hard.
Yeah, I mean, I say all the time, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's what
team.
Yeah, it is. Great stuff.
Always about the team.
Well, Rocky, man, this has been incredible. So what is your next play? We always ask our guests, what's your next play? So what is Rocky's next play?
Right now I've got a couple. I'm making up my mind if I'm gonna, stay in or make an exit to the military. But right now, my next play is just continue to try to be good husband, good father. I play softball here for our local team here, and so yeah, enjoying that. And
I bet
still playing ball.
I bet that's a pretty rowdy game, isn't it? Bunch of Army.
It gets pretty rowdy.
I bet it does. Well, thank you so much, brother. We appreciate you. This has been great. And this is the next play. If you haven't bought the 10 Qualities of a Warrior, get it today. So, Rocky, thanks so much for joining us, man. It was awesome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.